Welcome to another VFX Study Fairlight tutorial, and today it's about syncing audio and video events in an efficient way in Fairlight. Now, I've always done that in the edit page, right? We know how to align stuff, move things around with the mouse and so on. But it turns out in Fairlight there are a few more sophisticated ways to do that efficiently. Like if you ever have to synchronize any events, whether that's gunshots or slamming doors, Foley effects, anything that you need to align, you can use a few tricks that Gavin Lucas will share with us. He is the Fairlight trainer on VFX Study. He has released a massive training course and he will show you how he uses the scrollers, the audio track and video track scrollers to synchronize. He will show you if you synchronize things from the effects library, how you can audition and synchronize things, and he will show you a simple copy-paste method while using the audio waveform ghosting in Fairlight. And as a little bonus, there's a short segment where he shows you how to create an underwater sound effect. Hope you're excited about this. This is enough of me talking. I just say thanks to Audiio for supporting this video, and I give you Gavin.
So in this first scenario, I want to add an audio effect to an existing scene here from an amateur movie. And to start with, let's take a look at the current scene. So these are the two clips from the scene. The one guy is looking after the other guy here, and in the background someone fires a shot, and at the position here some prop sound was used on location to mark the time where the gunshot is fired, and the one guy also reacts to the gunshot. But of course here in editing, this prop sound has to be replaced with some real gunshot sound. And in order to do so, first of course I would need some gunshot sound. And here in my case, I want to use the website from our partner Audiio. And audio.com not only offers a large database of music for your film projects, but also sound effects. So let's go to the sound effects section and search for suitable sound effects. Let's click on search, and maybe let's start by searching for a revolver, and let's listen to some sounds here. Okay, as the name said, this is a drop of a revolver, but we need a gunshot sound, so let's add some more keywords here to our search, and this will give us different results, of course. And I think one of those sound effects should do it here.
Gavin uses audio.com to find a sound effect for his tutorial, and if you need sound effects, rest assured that their library is really large and growing and of good quality. Yes, you can sometimes find free sound effects. Yes, there are some even for free in DaVinci Resolve. Gavin will show you that as well. But in a professional project, very often the first effect that we find is not the one that we need at the end, and here you definitely have way more options and can search in a very proficient way. Of course, in addition, we have well curated music from real musicians on audio.com and everything basically that you need in terms of music or sound assets for your projects. If you want to check it out, Audiio is offering a great discount. You can get 70% off of your first year subscription if you use the link and coupon code that you can find under this video. So if you want your project to sound professional, think about using professional source material from audio.com, and then we head back to Gavin, who will synchronize it with his video.
Now back in Resolve, I have already imported those downloaded sounds here to my media pool. So I have some sound effects here I can choose from. And of course, this is a tutorial where I want to show you some tools, and if the job is just placing one sound effect here in my timeline, of course I could also do this in the edit page of Resolve, but if you have to sync more sound effects, you can be much faster in the Fairlight page, and shortly you will know why. And of course, we want to use the Fairlight page here right away, so let's switch to the Fairlight page and let's take a look at some of the methods the Fairlight page offers us here when syncing audio elements. For the first tools that I want to show you, I can just drag and drop the file here from my media pool into an empty area of my timeline, and a new audio track will be created suitable for the sound effect here. I can close the media pool. Let's enlarge this track a little bit more. Now I want to sync it to my event here. Of course, in my case, I could do that maybe right away like this, just move it approximately here to this position. But in a lot of real case scenarios, you have to be more exact. You want to have very precise editing, and I'd like to show you some tools that can help you to do more precise and exact editing. The first thing I want to show you is that we have additional options for the timeline view here. So if you're on the Fairlight page, you can go to the timeline view options, and here at the bottom of the timeline view options, you will find additional scrollers you can activate here. Let's start by activating the video scroller. This will give us some kind of new video track here at the bottom, and I will see the exact frame I'm currently working on here with my timeline cursor, with my position marker. But in our case, even if the actor reacts to the gunshot, that's not helping very much when syncing the elements here. So the video scroller is not the right option in this case. So let's deactivate that and take a look at the audio scrollers we have here. If I activate the additional first audio scroller, I can, in the header of the scroller, select which audio track I want to observe here. And if I select our audio track 1, which is the original set sound here, I can see a zoomed in version of my audio, and without having to zoom in here, I can precisely navigate to the point where this prop sound is occurring here in the clip. And this, of course, could help me to align some other sound to that here, especially if I activate the second scroller. So now I have two options here for my different audio tracks, and the second scroller is already set to look at audio track 2. And now I could move this here. Maybe let's switch the snapping off for a moment. And now I can use maybe the nudge functions to align it more precisely. So let's go to the trim menu, and here we have nudge, and I can nudge frame by frame, which I can do with keyboard shortcuts for comma and dot. And I will use the keyboard shortcut instead. So now I can move that second event here, and my video scroller shows me if I'm aligned correctly or not, even if I zoom out very much. So if I'm doing a lot of those editings, I can use those scrollers to precisely sync events together without having to zoom in and out. So what you can see, maybe when using frame by frame nudging, I can go almost exactly to the correct position, but for more precise syncing, maybe I would have to use a more precise nudging than frame by frame. So in case my picture here has 25 frames per second, if I move frame by frame, then I'm moving in a range of the 25th of the second. And if I have to move more precisely in smaller steps, then Fairlight offers me better nudging options here. If I go to the nudge menu again, I can see that there is also the option to subframe nudge a clip. And I'm not sure if this keyboard command is assigned by default, but here in my case, I have assigned a keyboard comment to that function here, so I can use my keyboard, Control Shift and comma and dot, to move my audio clip in subframe steps. And with that option, I can very, very precisely and exactly move my audio clips to the exact point in my timeline where I want the audio effect to occur. So this should give you the option to do every kind of syncing that you would like to do. And of course, as I said, this is one option Fairlight offers us. There are other options, and we will take a look at some more of them shortly. For the next example, I have already prepared a small timeline with this clip. Let's take a look at this clip and what's happening here. Someone is jumping here into the water, and I want to add some sound to this. So first I would like to find some jump into water sound. And this time I want to use a sound from the so-called sound library, which is a free library Blackmagic Design is offering for all users of DaVinci Resolve. And although this library is free for all Resolve users, it's not automatically installed with Resolve. So you first have to install this library. And if you haven't done before, I would just like to give you some information about that. For that, I will go to the Blackmagic Design page here. And if you go to the support section, then select DaVinci Resolve and Fusion. And now you can use the search field here. In my case, it's enough to just type in sound for sound library. And if you hit enter, the results get filtered by your keyword here. And there you will find the Blackmagic Fairlight sound library with an installer, and you can download the different versions here. And you have to close Resolve in order to install that, and then download this sound library here, and it has an own installer, and start the installer. And after installation, it should be automatically available the next time you start Resolve. So back to Resolve, I've already installed the sound library. Let's go to the sound library section here. I can access it from the edit page or from the Fairlight page. We are already here in the Fairlight page, so let's go to the sound library. And one thing that's very confusing for a lot of people if they are going to this sound library here is that it seems to be completely empty if you go to that section. And this is because the sound library has to have any search keyword here to display anything. And you can use the asterisk character here to display everything just as a joker. But the search keyword has to be at least 3 characters. So if you're typing 3 asterisks here, you can see everything that's inside your sound library here that's offered freely by Blackmagic Design. There's one more thing you might have to check before you can use that. Here with this field, you can select the Fairlight sound library. And after installation, this should be automatically be set to Fairlight sound library. If there's some problem, maybe go to this button and look if you really have the Fairlight sound library here for selection and select it. If not, maybe try the installation one again, and then you should have this option here. So you have to select the correct sound library, and then it will search this sound library here. So of course we are searching for a sound of someone jumping into the water, and I'm not sure what was the correct keyword for this. Let's try jump, and we get some result, which is not what I'm looking for, I think. Let's listen to that. So let's try it with another keyword, water maybe. So after we have found the sound we'd like to use, of course we could just drag and drop it here into the timeline, but I want to show you some more options the Fairlight sound library is offering us. For that, I first have to select a sync point here, which might be obvious if you're using a sound like a jump here, because this has some kind of fade in here at the moment. So this is when the person first touches the water, and the highest amplitude is here at this point. I think that's the point where the jump is halfway through, and maybe that might be the loudest part. And now I can say, okay, that's the sync point that's interesting for me. We will see shortly what we can do with that. If you have some other kind of event, maybe your sync point might be much more in the middle of an audio event. And of course, if I set my sync point to that, you can also see here in the preview that there is a small line which shows me where my sync point is. So let's set my sync point here to this point. And now we need another point here in my timeline that I will use for syncing. And let's say this is the point where the jump is the loudest part here. So I want to sync it to this point. And if I have done that, I will need some audio track here for auditioning this event. And I already created an audio track 1 and I have to select this track. So it has to be highlighted in order to make me able to use that audition. And now we have this audition button here, which I can hit. And now my video sync point placed with my timeline marker will be synced to the sync point here inside of my sample. And now I can preview that if it's okay for me. And if I think that was not the ideal point, I can cancel this. So I don't have to do anything here in the timeline. Maybe let's say this is the most loudest part. Let's do another audition. And I think that's not okay because the sound should start a little bit before. So again, let's cancel that. And let's say that's okay. And let's confirm it here with this button. Now we can close the sound library. And this was the first step to sync that using this method from the sound library. And now that we have placed the sound here, I want to show you some more Fairlight techniques that can help us tweaking the sound here to better fit our picture here. So first thing I want to change here, at this position my camera is going into water, and of course it would be very strange to hear that sound as it is here at the moment, because that's obviously recorded above water. So let's split the sound here at this point, and I will just use the eraser tool here to split it at that point. And now I can treat those two clips differently. Let's go to the inspector here, and maybe let's say if this part of the sound is underwater, maybe it should change its pitch. So let's go to the inspector, to the pitch area, and just try to lower the pitch with this option here by 25 semitones. And okay, maybe that could be enough. I'm not sure yet, but although I have lowered the pitch, there are still a lot of high frequency noises here. And in a second step, I could use the equalizer here to get rid of some high frequency sounds. If you don't know how to use the equalizer, just shortly, we have 4 so-called bands, which we can use here to increase or decrease the volume of certain frequencies. And I want to lower the volume of high frequencies here, so I'm using the band 4. And I can just move it a little bit to the left. And as the graphical representation shows us, we will get rid of the frequencies above this value here. So let's try it with that. So maybe that's a little bit too much. And I think that could fit my scene here. And of course, those are only some very, very simple examples for showing what you can do in the Fairlight page here. Finally, I want to show you some more last thing here that's very beneficial in the Fairlight page. In order to do so, I will just mute the track for the moment and lock it to not accidentally destroy it here. And at the moment, as I don't need this track, I will use the so-called index from the Fairlight page to turn off the visibility for this track. So this is one thing you can do in Fairlight if you're working with a lot of tracks. This can be very beneficial. I just don't want to see track A1 at the moment, so I can just hit the eye icon here in the index tracks to turn off the visibility of this track. Of course, it's still there and I can always turn it on again. And in my case, I just want to get rid of it for the moment, close the index and go to the media pool again. And there we have our sound we have just imported from the sound library before. And now I want to use it here on a new track. So let's add a new audio track here and place the sound somewhere here. It's not really important where I place it, because for this last method, we will learn how we can move existing clips here precisely on the timeline, at least one method to do so. And this time I will use my timeline cursor to search for my sync point inside of this clip. So maybe I want to sync it to the highest amplitude here of the waveform. And now I will select the clip and go to the edit menu, and I could either use cut or copy. In my case, I want to use cut. And now you will see a ghosted version of this clip, and as I'm moving my timeline cursor here, you will see that the clip will move along and the timeline cursor will stay in sync with my sync point I have set before, and this allows me to precisely move my clip to the position I want to sync it with. And in some cases it could be beneficial to turn on the video scroller. Maybe I want exactly go to the position where my clip dives into the water. And of course I can see that here too, but in some cases it can be beneficial to use the video scroller instead. And with that I can move it to the correct position and then just hit paste. You can use the keyboard command instead, of course. And then the clip will be placed at this new position. And this works when copying or cutting clips into a new position. And this is also one of the big benefits here in the Fairlight page when doing simple editing.
Thanks, Gavin, for showing us these little tips and techniques in Fairlight. I certainly learned something. I hope you did too. Gavin will follow up with a more advanced tutorial next week, where he will talk about synchronization with elastic wave, as well as some more advanced sound editing, sound design principles that you can use. If you want the full package, of course, check out Gavin's very comprehensive Fairlight training course on vfxstudy.com. Thanks again to Audiio for supporting this video. See you next time. Cheers.